Welcome to part 1 of Russian learning.
Hello, my name is Sejianin, and this is the first video in a set of tutorials that will teach you how to read Russian. Now, this set of tutorials is for absolute beginners, so no prior knowledge is necessary. If you don't know any Russian, that's fine, you're at the right place. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin.
This video will cover the relationship between sounds and letters in Russian, an introduction to consonants, vowels, and pronunciation signs, stress in Russian words, and syllabification.
So right now in front of you, you will see the Russian alphabet in its alphabetical order, its natural, sort of state. We'll cover every single one of these letters throughout these tutorials, so, just, keep that in mind. Now, we're going to be covering Russian print throughout these tutorials. Russian handwriting and Russian print have a few quite large differences between them. Some letters look like, from print to handwriting, they look like different letters completely, even though they're the same letters. It's confusing. We're only going to be covering print, so if you want to cover handwriting, there's lots of resources online, but these tutorials will just cover print. So in front of you, you will see a chart that shows you the differences between the uppercase and the lowercase versions of Russian letters, along with the closest equivalent English sound. Now, this chart will be very, very helpful throughout these tutorials. So if you can print it out, go ahead and do it. You can find the chart on Wikipedia and probably just online somewhere on Google Images if you can. But if you can print it off, it should be helpful. So it's important to understand the differences between a sound and a letter. So a sound is something that you hear with your ears. You hear noises, you hear sounds. A letter is something that is written down. It is, it's written by hand and you can see it. And you can say, what a letter is, but the way you pronounce a letter and the way you pronounce the sound it makes are different. So you could have the letter in English, like the letter B, and it's, you say it like the letter B, but the sound it makes is B. And you can have the letter K, but the sound it makes is K. And in Russian, same sort of principle, you can have the letter B, and the sound it makes is B. Or you can have the letter K, and the sound it makes is K. So it's, same sort of process. So in the English language, one thing that can be quite confusing to a lot of people is that a lot of letters, when put together, they make a particular sound. They make a particular noise that you wouldn't expect to hear with all those letters put together. So we can take a word like dough and a word like through. So dough and through both have O-U-G-H in them. However, they both sound different. So you have dough, which makes like an O noise. The O-U-G-H makes an O noise. Meanwhile, through makes an oo noise. So you got O and oo, two different sorts of sounds, but from the same four letters. This isn't so much the case in Russian. In Russian, each letter has a specific sound. So if I had a word like through and I converted it into Russian, it would sound more like THR or OGH, because every single letter has a specific sound. So that's in Russian, not the case in English, but in Russian every letter has a sound, and once you learn the alphabet, you'll be much, much closer to reading Russian quite well. So in Russian you have vowels and consonants, much the same in English. So if you already know the difference between vowels and consonants, you can go and skip a bit. But vowels are sounds that you can make with your mouth open. So they're not obstructed by your teeth, by your lips, by your tongue. Nothing's obstructed. So you can make a sound like ah or ooh. Those are vowels. You can make them without any part of your mouth obstructing it. Meanwhile, the consonants are the opposite of that. So a letter like K, you have to use your tongue to make it. Or Ch, it's my teeth come together. My teeth, my tongue, my lips, they obstruct my mouth when I say consonants. So vowels, open mouth, consonants, obstructions. So in front of you, you'll see the entire Russian alphabet in 3 categories. So we have 10 vowels, 21 consonants, and 2 pronunciation signs. In Russian, you also have 2 pronunciation signs. You have a soft sign, which is called the мягкий знак, and a hard sign, which is called the твердый знак. Now, these signs make no noise on their own. However, they do serve to change the sound a letter makes that is put before the sign. So if you have a soft sign, the letter before the soft sign will sound soft. If you have a hard sign, the letter before the hard sign will sound hard. Simple enough.
One problem a lot of beginners have when they start to learn Russian is identifying where the stress is located in a word. In order to assist with this, anytime you see an underlined letter in a word in the following tutorials, this demonstrates where the stress is located in that word.
Now, stress is also a very, very important thing in the Russian language. Stress is basically just what letter you put emphasis on. So, what letter you put emphasis on in a word can completely change the meaning of a word in the Russian language. So, we can have a word like zamek, which means castle, zamek. And we can have a word like zamok, which means lock, zamok. So there's no real rule to determining where the stress is in a word. It's something you just sort of gain by experience and through, reading and reading and reading, you eventually learn. But there is one thing that can help you, and that is that the letter yo, which looks like an E with 2 dots, that is always the stressed letter in any word which it can be found in. It's always the stressed letter, but otherwise you'll learn stresses through experience. Now, syllabification is also kind of important in the sense that it's good to know that Russian syllables usually end in vowels. So you have a word, you can divide it into syllables quite easily if you just look at where the vowels are. So you can have a word like kino, which means movie. So kino, 2 syllables, both of them end in vowels. So ki ends in e, which is a vowel, and no ends in o, which is a vowel. So that's it for now. In further tutorials, we'll be continuing to cover every single Russian letter in greater detail, so please stay tuned for more.